Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of the 5-part series of the causes of the Civil War. I'm going to try and keep this short. This one's about siege mentality. Remember, siege mentality is the idea that the North is out to get the South, and the South is always being left behind, and the South is being left out of things. So here are a few specific things that are actually going to fuel the idea of siege mentality. The first thing really is the fact that the South lags economically in comparison to the North, and that's probably because their economy was stagnant and they didn't really have any technological innovation happening in the South because they were a cash crop economy. So they felt angry that they felt really subservient to the North because they depended upon and relied upon northern shipping and northern manufacturing, and they were angry about this, but they chose not to do anything about it. So I don't know how angry they could have been, but whatever. They were, right? There were slave rebellions and uprisings that will contribute to the idea of siege mentality. Most notably, we've got Nat Turner's rebellion. Now, Nat Turner was a semi-literate preacher. He was a slave. And apparently he was driven by prophetic visions. And on August 22nd, 1831, Turner is going to lead about 70 free African Americans and slaves, so a combination of both, all of them armed, usually with some kind of bludgeoner or hatchets and axes. And what they did is they set out and they went to all the slave owners in the area and basically took them out and killed them as a way to gain freedom for the slaves, right? And they're really going to start with Turner's master and his wife. They're going to pull Turner's master and his wife out of their beds, and they are going to hack them and beat them to death. It's a very violent act, multiple violent acts, that will not be taken well by the white population. And so about a month and a half after the event, it lasts about 2 days. The rebellion lasts about 2 days, and about a month and a half later, Turner is actually found, captured, put on trial, and sentenced to a hanging. And the lynch mob is such an angry, frothy, crazy part of their brain, probably fueled by fear. They take it to the next level. They take his execution to the next level. So not only do they hang him, they skin him. They cut him into small parts, send out pieces of Nat Turner as souvenirs, and then they boil whatever remains to grease, and they use the grease. In fact, there's rumors that a purse made out of his skin and his skull are still hidden in storage somewhere. Again, those are rumors. But what this is really going to do long term is it's going to lead to stricter laws to control the African American or slave population, and it made slave owners tighten their control of their slaves and become much more violent towards their slaves. Another notable rebellion or uprising is going to be John Brown. I have a video dedicated just to John Brown if you want more details. But really quickly, he found his way out to the Kansas-Nebraska Territory in 1856. This territory was known as Bleeding Kansas at the time because things out there had really become overwhelmingly violent between the abolitionists and the anti-slavery settlers and the pro-slavery settlers. Now, John Brown is going to contribute to this by leading a small band of abolitionist zealots, and they're going to kill 5 men in pro-slavery Kansas by pulling them out of the building and beating them to death with 4x4s. Obviously, these types of deadly rebellions confirm the Southern fears that people were out to get them. In fact, John Brown is going to pop back up in 1859 in Harper's Ferry, West Virginia. And he's going to lead a slave uprising, convincing the South that the North was against them, and their only real recourse was secession. This sentiment of secession will actually follow directly into politics, and Southern, what are called fire eaters, will lead the charge. Now, here's the crazy thing. You all know John C. Calhoun. John C. Calhoun has been a big proponent or opponent to federal power over states' power, and he has made that very, very clear multiple times. And technically, he's the leader of the fire eaters. But here's the thing. He was a staunch unionist, meaning despite his issues with the Union, he wanted to make change from within, and he did not want to secede. He believed in keeping the Union together. However, in early 1850s, he passes away. He dies, and the fire eaters have no real governor over their actions any longer. And what they do, they take control of the national conversation around this idea of siege mentality and slavery, and they're no longer comfortable or willing to stay in French politics. And they themselves, by themselves, are not a cause of the Civil War, but they contribute to the idea that the North was after the South. They contribute to the idea of siege mentality. And eventually, this conversation is going to erupt into violence at the Capitol building. Okay? So here we are, Washington, we're at the Capitol building, Senate chambers. Abolitionist Charles Sumner, he's a senator of Massachusetts. He had just given a speech shortly before called Crime Against Kansas, in which he basically he speaks about the atrocities against anti-slavery settlers in Kansas, and he speaks about the need to abolish slavery nationwide. And he specifically points fingers at Senator Andrew Butler of South Carolina. Now, Butler's nephew, Congressman Preston Brooks, he hears this speech, and he takes this speech very personally, because that's his family, and you don't talk about family, right? So he walked up to Sumner, and he attacked him in the Senate chambers with his cane. And now, Brooks hit Sumner so hard and so many times that part of the cane shattered, okay? That's crazy. And the attack was brutal. And Sumner didn't make a public appearance for 6 months. This happened in May. He didn't make a public appearance until November. Okay? And he didn't even return to Senate chambers despite being reelected for 3 years. So this attack was brutal, right? But more than that, it will shed light really on the amount of passion and anger and violence in the debate over slavery in the 1850s. Fighting was common on the frontier, but it was rare in the Senate and congressional chambers, right? The fact that such a violent attack was regarded as nothing more than retribution, because here's the thing, they actually convened a hearing to look at this incident, and they determined, well, he didn't want to kill him, he just wanted to punish him. Okay, so that makes it okay, right? Well, anyway, so the fact that people regarded this as nothing more than retribution is a little crazy to me. And here's the crazier thing. How people viewed this, depending upon where they lived, where they were from, was so radically different. So in the South, they viewed this attack on Sumner as manly and honorable. In fact, Southerners would actually send Brooks new canes with notes of congratulations and hit him again kind of thing. Whereas in the North, they saw this attack and they saw it as a brutal attack on the very fabric of American democracy and decency. So that right there tells you how siege mentality and the ideology behind slavery has really created a massive chasm between how people even identify themselves, how they represent themselves as Americans, and what it even means to be an American. Okay, so I know that one ran a little long, so I'm sorry, but I'll try better next time. Bye.